Care has real solutions. Our mission is to magnify the voices of the patient and physician. We want to take medicine back to its original purpose. Join host Dr. Nikki Johnson for Free to Care, the podcast, for conversations on lowering prices, making prices transparent, personalizing medical care, taking bureaucrats out of the system to bring you more choices for your healthcare dollar. We know that healthcare is personal, not partisan. Join us live Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern for Free to Care, the podcast. Hi, everybody. Good evening. It is Friday night, September 17th, 2021. We are halfway through the month of September. Before we know it, it's going to be Halloween time and all that fall. The crisp air is coming through. I have been absent for a couple of weeks, have some family stuff going on here that we had to deal with. Family comes first, always. Work as well. But I am always going to be back. You can count on that. So I do not have a guest tonight. Everybody was at the Free to Care conference this week that I had to miss, also for family reasons. But I am happy to entertain any questions you may have or any comments tonight about any hot topics in the news or any questions you may have or comments that you may have on Free to Care solutions. So while I wait for you guys to start posting your comments on, I will just do a quick reminder of what Free to Care is. If you look this way, we have a new logo that was created for the coalition. So I'm changing up my background and things like that. So you'll notice that as well. But freetocare.org is the website. It's the number 2, free number 2 care.org. You can go on and find out a lot about the website, about the coalition, what we do, what we stand for, who we are, because the coalition is built up of many grassroots organizations or just organizations that were created by the people. And these people include patients themselves, advocates for patients, as well as physicians who advocate for both physicians and patients. So there's about 70,000 physicians represented, over 3 million total people in the coalition represented by multiple organizations. And these range from very, very specific focused organizations to have a singular focus, to others that actually have a little bit more of a broad focus. Some of them you can donate to, some of them don't necessarily accept donations, but can appreciate you spreading the word, appreciate you volunteering to help, or really just kind of getting you active, getting you out there, empowered with information that you can use to advocate for yourself. Things that you can ask your doctor about, things that you can ask your congressman about, your state legislators about, very specific words, language, things that you can add to the healthcare conversation that are really going to be solution oriented. The gist of Free to Care is we want to lower the cost of healthcare. We want everybody to have affordable medical care, not just words, and we actually have solutions for that. We also want everybody to have access to physicians, access to physician-led care. But if you choose not to go with a physician, we want you to have that choice as well. Okay, that Melissa just chimed in with a question, and it is, what do you think of functional medicine? Physician, not a chiropractor. I understand that there functional medicine, for those of you who don't know, is a newer type of a field where the physicians are focused on how the bodily physiology functions together, how things are coordinated, and how it is related to things that you eat, your activity levels. There's just sort of a really broad field that's related to it. And I don't personally know very many of them, so I can't really tell you how I necessarily feel. But what I do want people to know and be aware of is that there are people out there who charge you for things that may not necessarily be of benefit to you, or have any sort of like scientific merit to them. So be wary, because a lot of these types of doctors and facilities will have you paying cash, out of pocket. Um, and, and your insurance may or may not cover it if you do have insurance. And so we don't want anybody to be scammed. It's a field that's so wide open right now, that there the potential for, I guess, when I say it, uh, I don't know, for fraud, or for people to kind of take advantage of vulnerable people who have chronic diseases or have complaints that haven't really been helped or supported by a regular, traditional Western medicine physician. And so I understand that, and I empathize with everybody, and I want you to have options out there, but I don't want you to be taken advantage of either. So do your own kind of research. Ask before you pay these people any kind of a dime. Ask them what their personal outcomes are, and ask them, what they're basing their information on. Kind of figure that out before you start to pay money for lots of tests or lots of medications or antibiotics, antifungals, things like that. So just be aware. I don't have an opinion, necessarily. Is what I say. I would never see one. No, I can't. I can't ever say that. I'm pretty open minded about medical care and treatment and options like that. I just don't. I just want everybody to be safe. And just, for example, I mean, I've used a acupuncturist quite a bit. I don't necessarily do everything the traditional way myself. So I'm also in a pretty unique field. I'm in intensive care pediatrics, and I practice what we call procedural sedation, which is like being an anesthesiologist for kids, but not in the operating room. So I'm very, very specialized. So I'm away from a lot of the other types of specialists as well. So I'm a little bit isolated. So I still have a lot to learn too. So if you guys have some things that you want to tell me or teach me, I'm willing to listen and learn as well. So thanks, Melissa, for the question. Anybody else out there have any questions? And, we got some, quite a week talking about this COVID vaccine, with Nicki Minaj weighing in on her opinion, and people around her weighing, in the public eye, weighing in on their opinions about things. Any questions related to that? You can ask me about that. Any questions about, I'm not going to answer any personal medical, or health questions, but if you have anything, kind of in general about how we want to go about solving healthcare problems, like what, specifically, what do you want to talk? Do you want to talk about lowering the cost of care? Do you want to talk about how do you get access? Another hot topic that's been in the news is nursing shortage. So I actually am I'm trying to reach out to a few nurses, but if anybody's in the audience watching who's a nurse and would like to come on with me and have a discussion about nursing shortage, what started it, why it did not start during the pandemic. Great question. Hello, my sister. Thank you so much for asking this question. So why do travel nurses make so much money? Traveling nurses make so much money right now because hospitals and medical systems are incentivizing help from anywhere they can get it. And so if you are traveling, so say when in the beginning of the pandemic, when New York had a really, high levels of patients who are getting sick with COVID, they needed all of the help they can get. So they were incentivizing people to come and help. Uh, um, and the nurse to patient ratio is a lot more um, concerning when it's too high, of patients than it is for doctors. And then doctors can kind of cover, multiple patients at once, and still be pretty safe. But when patients are really, really sick, you really need both. So that's what they were doing. They're paying travel nurses, nurses who are experienced. And are willing to travel so that they can have more nurses at the bedside caring for patients. So that's what they're doing. That is causing a lot of our nurses who are younger, not tied to families, um, so single, and willing to travel to go and leave the bedside at places where they were employed and then go and travel and make a ton of money. So that leaves us with some shortages in our hospitals. Now the problem is um, the problem is um, we're not incentivizing the nurses who are employed and working in hospital systems, who are established nurses, those who have experience, who are pretty much experts in their field and their particular specialty as a nurse. They're not being treated as such. They're not valued nearly as much as they should be. And this has been a long, lasting problem. This is not something new. And so now we have a lot of baby boomer nurses who they're ready to retire. My staff, about half of them are going to retire in the next year, because why stick around? Go live your life. You're working in a pandemic, and people aren't treating you like you matter. They are also now they've become data miners. Basically, you see a lot of us are on these electronic health systems that was required by the Affordable Care Act. One of the things that we disliked about the Affordable Care Act um, is that it made us all into data entry miners, and so that takes away um, our care, our oversight of the actual patient. And the nurses, as you know, are the people who actually spend the most time with the patients. So, especially in the hospital, they are actually doing the hands-on, care. They're doing the, giving the meds. They are doing the assessments ever so often, and checking in on people. They are providing the assistance to get up and go to the bathroom, to help you shower and bathe, all of that. And it's a lot of work. It's long hours. When you're in an ICU, they're standing up for long hours. They may not get a bathroom break. They may not get a lunch break. And here you are paying someone who's just left nursing school the same amount as an experienced nurse who's been working for 5 years, and not incentivizing these nurses. They've gone without raises in different places as well, and doing more work for less money. They're taking care of more patients. The nurse to patient ratio is getting smaller and smaller in unsafe levels, and we've seen some people protesting. So that's the long-winded answer about that. Okay, I see another question. What is your area doing about healthcare personnel vaccine mandates? That is a very interesting question. So where I am, there are three major teaching hospitals, and one of them that I work at, and they are all affiliated with the same medical school. The hospital that I work at has pretty much held off on any type of a vaccine mandate until President Biden announced that this is what he was going to be requesting from private businesses. And so what they're doing is encouraging. At this point, they had been encouraging people to get vaccinated. It was not mandatory. Um, and right now, they haven't released any like an official statement that it's going to be mandatory. They are actually gathering data on the number of people who are actually already vaccinated, and we're filling out like attestation forms. There are some people who are protesting against actually filling out and completing an attestation form to say they got vaccinated. And I won't say if I'm one of those people or not. But there are people who still have not gotten the vaccine, and there are lots of questions. There are people that I know who have actually gotten the infection and naturally and don't wish to get the vaccine because they don't feel like they need it. And so that specifically is not being addressed in my institution. I did ask the CEO of the hospital to address that for people who, and also to address the people who have questions about the vaccine. Um, so Speaking of questions about the vaccine, hi, Saul. Thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks for that question, Kay. That was awesome. Um, Saul G. Thank you, my brother. Thank you. Let me give you a shout out too for helping me get started with this show and helping me to kind of host it on Libre TV. So I don't get a lot of traffic over there. So I just do all my lives and then I post later, and hopefully you guys will go find it and look it up and kind of build up Libre TV .co. We need that place built up because there's two independent brothers of mine who are working hard to build have a platform already for people to speak their mind freely. So you're not getting kicked off and booted off Libre TV. Libre means free. So go do that. But anyway, Saul's question: can you explain the difference between a live vaccine and a messenger RNA vaccine? That's a great question. So a live vaccine is not necessarily a live virus, but it's parts of the virus itself that are kind of the active parts of the virus that really stimulate the immune system. So when that part of that's like the flu vaccine is one of those examples. When you get injected with that, your body then makes its own natural response to those particles of the organism. What with the COVID vaccines, that the ones that are the messenger RNA vaccines, these are actually very there are no parts of the actual virus that itself stimulates your body to create a reaction. What it does is actually tells your body or gives your body a signal. Your RNA, not your DNA. And so for people who get that confused, because a lot of people say it's changing your DNA. Your DNA is kind of the basic building blocks of everything that your body is coded for. So if you know what codes are, it's like the whole Lego set. But the RNA is very specific parts of the DNA that have been signaled by something in the body to actually form certain proteins or that the body naturally is going to make. And so it's just a smaller piece of the code. So it tells what color the Lego should be, not how all the Legos go together specifically, or which section is going to be put together. And so a messenger RNA vaccine basically is a signaler. It tells your RNA basically to make a protein that that mimics the vaccine, mimics the virus. I'm sorry, mimics a part of the virus. In this case, it's the spike proteins. Makes that, and then your body fights that very specific area. And that for the coronavirus, or that SARS coronavirus 2, that specific area on the virus is the one that produces the biggest inflammatory reaction in people, and that causes all of those really sick symptoms where your lungs are inflamed, you're producing blood clots throughout your body, and then your blood pressure goes lower, you're in shock. Um, and your lungs just kind of get stiff and like rocks. That is what it's doing. It's actually your body's response to the virus that's making you sick. It's not the virus itself doing anything to your cells and organisms. It's your body's response to it. So, and it's a very complicated virus. I mean, those Chinese were pretty sneaky and creative on the way they did that. Um, so, um, but it is so the messenger RNA, it basically is just kind of a code. It just tells it gives a signal, and this tells your messenger RNA to kind of produce this protein, and then the body responds to the protein. And it's not a permanent thing, as you can see, your antibodies to it, they've at least they're trying to say that people's antibodies actually start to decrease over time because of the vaccine. But right now, that's very controversial. You've got people from the FDA stepping down because they don't believe we need to give booster shots, because the data, the CDC and the Biden administration decided to put out a request that everybody gets the booster shot before we even got all the data. And the data appears to show that people's immunity still is standing at this point. So there's really no need for people to get a booster shot. So that means the messenger RNA versions are actually pretty smart, because we know that the flu vaccine wanes at about 6 months, because it's not as smart of a vaccine. Yes, you're right. They did. The FDA did vote it down, but the CDC, and that was based on that data. But it remains to be seen what the CDC is going to do. But the concern is that they were actually promoting this third dose, this booster dose, before all of the scientific data came out. And that's one of the things that has a lot of people very skeptical, and I understand that. Before I continue, though, I am a proponent of the vaccine, and I want everybody to get it who can, even if you're healthy, because you really don't want to be that 1% where you are sick in the hospital, and it really could have been prevented. I personally do not think, I mean, I've skimmed over the VAERS data, and I personally don't see a lot of life-threatening things that are clearly attributed to the vaccine itself. But I understand, I really, really do. I understand the skepticism of everyone out there, because our government and our public health institutions have not been forthcoming with us a lot. Our politicians, goes back to President Trump, who even admitted that he withheld information on how deadly it was, because he didn't want to scare people. Well, we don't want that. We need people to tell us the truth, and so we want to know all the side effects. We want to know what people are really at risk for, what's happening to people, why are all these various reports in, and then nobody's seeming to do anything about it. A lot of people believed in that. So this vaccine reporting database is actually created, by the CDC. Anybody really can report, but physicians are actually required to report any side effects that their patients report to them related to getting the vaccine, or that they even think that is related. But it could be anything. So it could be like, yeah, my pinky toe got swollen and it started itching, and then 2 days after I got the vaccine, and then somebody reports it. It is not really complete. It's like putting together a whole list of things that happened in the next 5 days after I got this vaccine. So it's not a great source of real scientific data that shows for sure the association with the vaccine. You can look up VAERS reports on just about every single immunization. I think the best way to figure out what's going on what for yourself is go see your own doctor, talk about your own risks, and then ask that doctor what they're seeing, because your doctor, especially if they're actually administering the vaccine, um, they keep track of what happens to their patients, or they should be. And if they're not, then you need to pick somebody else different too. But they're they don't have an incentive to tell you the wrong thing, because if they lie to you, then you've lost trust and you've lost your doctor. So they're seeing the patients who are getting vaccinated, and they're seeing what's happening. They're going in to treat, people are getting sick, and then need to go see their doctor, and they could tell if it's vaccine related or not. And so go to the sources, go to the places that are actually administering the vaccine, go to the local health department, go to those free clinics, that are out where they're actually administering vaccine, and talk to the people who are giving it and ask them what their personal experience is. Yes, it's not the most scientific way, but in your area, that's where you're going to find the most information. It's the most reliable information, and it's going to be people who you trust that you ask. I am at this point very jaded about what um, what the of how everything has been handled in the scientific and medical communities throughout this pandemic. It has really it was actually really depressing in 2020 for me, because these were institutions that I did look up to and relied on for information, and that even includes especially Dr. Fauci. Um, and Jerome Adams, who was the Surgeon General at the time. We really needed people to be honest and forthcoming with us, and they withheld information. They told us parts of information, and they weren't honest with us the whole entire pandemic. And I think people have ruined any credibility that we have, even as physicians, in trying to sell any type of vaccine at this point. So I'm, as a pediatrician, I am really worried about that. So I'm not, I still believe vaccines work. I think they do save lives. I don't think, and I know the data, that they do not prevent um, the transmission of viruses as much as it is being pushed out and being told that it does. Um, but it does save lives, and I just cannot honestly, as a physician, feel responsible, and I'm not doing my job if I don't tell people to actually get the vaccine. Ask me about children another time. So, oh, thanks. No boosters. All right, Melissa. What else? What do you see, Melissa? I know it's crazy, but I have. Okay, I guess and spike protein is a good thing. I'm sorry, honey. Yeah, I'm not saying, Melissa, I'm not saying spike protein is a good thing. I'm saying that the spike protein is actually the thing that causes all of the bad reactions in the body to the coronavirus, and so it is not a good thing. But what that messenger RNA actually does code for that, and it gives your body basically a milder presentation to it, so that you can actually start to have an immune system. And then when your body sees the actual organism again after the vaccine, it doesn't produce as much of an inflammatory response. It's actually fighting the virus. And so that's kind of that's the point of it. Now, I have close, personal friends and family who have autoimmune diseases, lupus specifically, and they've had a hard time with the vaccine, and even got the booster shot. But the third time, like with the booster shot, not nearly as severe a reaction as they had the first couple of times. But high fevers, headaches, vomiting, just generally achy, all the kind of COVID symptoms. So. Yeah, that spike protein is what allows it to attach to your cell's receptors and then kind of and enter the cell and cause all the damage that it does. So so that's that. Yeah, it's that tricky. It's kind of it's the thing when you look at it. I mean, they look like spikes, so they help it stick to the cell, and then they have to get inside the cell to kind of cause all the damage that they do. It's a very fascinating actually virus if you are a person who is into microbiology and just kind of figuring out how things work. It is it's pretty genius what they came up with. It's just so, I'm actually surprised I didn't get any questions about Nicki Minaj's cousin's friend's fiance, but um, I was banking that Saul was actually at least going to ask that, but I'm not seeing that. Anybody else have anything? And I'm gonna admit too, I'm not a virologist, obviously. I'm not an infectious disease specialist. I just I look and I read and I talk to people that I know and trust who are uh You're right, it is. It is very funny that it is. But let me tell you though, I actually did do a little research. So I actually went on VAERS and looked up the incidence of orchitis, which is the inflammation, of the testicles, um, and that related to the vaccine. And then let me see if I can actually find my little screenshot. Uh, yeah, okay, here we go. Let's see if you guys can read that. Um, so there were about 3 cases that reported they actually had some symptoms of orchitis after their doses of the vaccine. So this first one was a person who had abdominal pain and chills 2 days after their second vaccine dose, which led to orchitis, and then 4 days in the hospital on that one. Another person said on the 4th day, they began urinating blood, was diagnosed with a secondary infection of the left kidney, bladder, and testicle with orchitis and epididymitis. It was antibiotic resistant until a 3-week course of Cipro. Sounds like that has absolutely nothing to do with the vaccine. That sounds like a bacterial problem. It sounds like that person was probably Nicki Minaj's cousin's friend's fiance. And then there was this third one that had a diagnosis of orchitis of the right testicle. It was a spontaneous report. The patient was a 32-year-old guy after getting his second dose, and the BNT, which is the Pfizer vaccine. Actually, these all were the Pfizer vaccine, by the way. And I did a search for all of the COVID vaccines. So, um, and the patient really, didn't have it didn't have COVID at the time, wasn't actually tested for COVID, and really didn't have a lot else going on in their medical history. So you could tell that this one was probably written more like by a clinician, either a physician or a nurse, because there's a lot more detail to it. Some of these other ones where there's just like these first two where there's not a lot of detail, and give you information that's related to the timing of it, are probably people who aren't as clinically savvy. So it doesn't. It still doesn't look like it was. This one was either related to the vaccine as well. Either there wasn't anything that you could actually specifically tie in, but you can't really say for this one either, for sure. But the first one, a little questionable. The second one, definitely questionable. So shout out to Nicki Minaj's cousin, his fiance, right there. 1279573-1 Bears ID. All right, so there's that. Okay. Let me get back here. Get back to the comments. All right. So health insurance. Okay, what do you want to know about health insurance? What do you suggest that a family do that has a lot of medical challenges, but don't have corporate. Okay, so no like employer sponsored healthcare. So yeah, that's a tricky one, especially a larger family. Um, so there's a couple of ways to do this, and this is what I've seen people do, strategize a little bit. So some people will actually go out and find a high deductible health plan, um, pay the premiums, but then see and that way, um, a high deductible health plan can actually, oh, no, can give you the opportunity to save money in a healthcare savings account. Right now, we don't really have any other way that we can actually contribute to a healthcare savings account. And so for the people who don't know, there's a flexible spending account as well too that you can get. The difference between the two is, both of them you get to save money that's tax free. The healthcare savings account actually rolls over from year to year, and you keep that money no matter where you go. The flexible spending account is amount of money that you set aside from your paycheck. Both of them come directly out of your paycheck. And if you're employed, then the employer contributes a portion of that as well. But if you're buying it on your own, you're pretty much the only person who's contributing to the healthcare savings account, and you can save as much as you want up to a different maximum every year. So I believe this year's maximum is 6,500 for a family, um, and that money you save up and you can spend it on anything pretty much you want that's related to your healthcare. Flexible spending account, you save up money, but you have to use that before the end of the year. So you kind of have to have an idea of what your family is spending on healthcare. People who do have a lot of chronic illnesses or complex medical problems in their family have an idea in general. Kids is kind of hard and trickier because kids have um, eh, they're growing. So things are going to change every year. so and so you really don't know how frequent something's going to happen. So if you have a kid with epilepsy, maybe they're having a spurt and they have a ton of them, and then they sort of stabilize and their metabolism. They stabilize their hormone levels if they're going through puberty, and then that's going to change. So as many times as they have seizures and need medicines and add different medicines, things like that. So that's going to change. So that's kind of hard and tricky. But if you're an adult and you have chronic illnesses, you can kind of estimate how much you're going to be spending, how much are you going to be spending on medications, how much you're going to be spending how many times you need to go to see the doctor per year. So it's a little easier, but I'm biased. I personally like the healthcare savings account because I don't like to guess wrong and have money left over and then that goes to the government. So I like to keep the money that I spend, and it's tax free. So so that high deductible plan, healthcare spending account, and then either find a direct primary care doctor who will see you for a monthly fee and see you as many times as you want during that month. And if you have kids, that's a phenomenal idea. So you talking maybe anywhere from 50 to maybe 200, 50 for an individual, and then maybe 200, 250 a month for a family, which seems like a lot for especially people who are impoverished. But if you are living a lifestyle where you have a cell phone, you have all kinds of streaming services that you're using, or even cable TV, I mean that's a huge expense right there that you're spending, and this is for your health care. And with this, though, you get in some locations, you get a direct primary care doctor who will see the whole family, because a lot of them are family physicians. They will see you as many times as you need to be seen in that month's period of time. A lot of them make house calls. A lot of them will take a call from you while you are on vacation and you're out somewhere and the kid has a fever, or you think they have strep throat, and they know your family, know your kid, and they will call in antibiotics for you. um, uh, it's just it's phenomenal what they're doing. I mean, it's pretty much kind of old medicine, like kind of back to the original kind of Hippocratic medicine, where it's just between you and the doctor. They do some of them in different states. They're allowed to dispense medications, so they can get wholesale prices for medications. So if you're needing high blood pressure medicines or certain seizure medicines or diet insulin, you can get it really cheap, just through your doctor. They can negotiate. They do negotiate prices for imaging centers. So if one kid needed an MRI, they can get you a lower cost for that rather than sending you down to the hospital. Now, but if you do have to be admitted to the hospital, then yeah, that's when you're going to use that high deductible plan, that you're paying for. Um, and the other piece of that is, um, when you have a primary care doctor, um, you are going to have less time in the hospital because they're going to do everything they can to keep you from going into the hospital, keep you from getting sick. And so, I mean, especially, I mean, obviously, you still have to pick a good doctor. Like that's not just being direct primary care doesn't necessarily mean that person's going to be a good physician. But I can guarantee you this: direct primary care physicians are working their tails off, and they want you to do well. Their incentive is that you do well, so that you keep coming to them, and that you refer more patients to them. They see fewer patients in a day, so they can set their own, because they're not taking insurance. They can set their own length of time that they want to spend with you. And if they know your family, all three kids are coming for the same day, they'll see all three kids in the same day, and set aside that time. So, uh, all right. Oh, Rod. Hi, Rod. Hi, Wendy. Let's see. Rod's got a question. What can we do to promote medical literacy in our community? Well, Mr. Threats, you can tell people to tune into my show on Friday nights. You can share my podcast, because that's really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to educate people about things. So if you're specifically talking about things like, um, their specific medical care needs, the kind of the medical lingo, then yeah, I mean, I that's a tough one. That really, really is a tough one. I am actually trying to encourage some of these legislators to hold town halls with some physicians and nurses presence, for people to be able to ask these kind of questions. But when you deal with politicians, you deal with a lot of people who they have an agenda, obviously, so they're going to kind of stick to the policy side of things. But um, there's lots of communities who do have free health fairs where you go, and you meet physicians and nurses who are volunteering for the day, and they take your blood pressure, or do some kind of basic screenings, and they can answer questions as well. I know some medical students who volunteer and do things like that, also. um, so, but that's kind of generally, but I kind of, if to boost up, to get people literate about the actual lingo and what things they should be asking their legislators for, or what organizations to go to that will support a certain thing. Then that's right here. Stay right here. Okay. Thanks, Rod. All right. Another question. My primary care is a DO. Still don't understand what DOs are, but I love her. Oh well. So DOs are osteopathic doctors of osteopathic medicine. MDs are doctors of allopathic medicine. The only difference between the two doctors is how we're trained and kind of what the focus is on. DOs tend to be more of like that functional medicine type, where they learn how to do things with their hands, with their with that are just non-traditional. Not all osteopaths kind of learn, osteopathic manipulation, but they don't do all of the kind of traditional prescribing and going to get imaging and things like that. They like to do a lot kind of with their hands and with you and thinking about the holistic um, um, part of your body, working on all of the kind of your nutrition and your lifestyle that goes along with it. Allopathic doctors like me, MDs, we don't learn any of that. We do get a little bit of nutrition here, we get a little bit of wellness, but we're really learning a lot of kind of basic physiology, basic pathophysiology, how the body acts when it's healthy, how the body acts when it's not healthy, and then what can we do to fix it when it's not healthy. We don't do a ton of prevention, and how do we keep it from being unhealthy. So, but there are there are people that came to be a big issue when President Trump was in office. As the White House doctor, was a DO. I mean, it's the same. Everybody's doctor in the White House was a DO, but and so celebrities were out there, ragging on them. But there are DOs who are like amazing, brilliant doctors, just like there are MDs who are amazing, brilliant people, and then there's some crappy ones. On both sides. So there's no real difference, but they did sort of have to fight to get that status. They also had to fight really to get training in hospitals. So we have to go through, once we go through medical school and get that, and we get our degree, our doctorate, we have to go through residency training. Well, the osteopaths were only going to certain places because that trained them, and it got to the point where they were actually really trying to find their own way and try to find a place that would actually train them. And so you're not seeing as many nowadays, but thankfully in the last couple of years, they have actually joined and combined with the MDs in what we call our residency match system, where they actually get matched to a place that they train. They enter a lottery system and they get matched. So they have just as much of a chance as getting a spot as an MD. So that part of it, that piece of it's going away. So the training is going to be more standardized for them, and so that was a part of it that was concerning for people, is that they just were not getting that standardized road to training, but they still had to take the same board certification and things that we have to take as well. So that's it. Rod Stock is a DO too. Aw, this is awesome. Let me know how I can help and be supportive of you with this, because that is definitely something that interests me as well. So, a funny story about that. I was when I the church that I used to belong to. I used to volunteer on Sundays as the as the church doctor. We had this health committee, and it was mainly nurses from the 1930s. They were so old. That was a joke. That's really an exaggeration. They would wear their nursing hat and their skirt and all the white stockings and white hose and everything. And I tried to volunteer. Why I volunteered, and I was the doctor, and they were trying to get me to wear that nursing hat. And like, no, we're not going to do that. Well, the first day I was on duty, a lady did pass out. She had hypoglycemia and passed out, lost consciousness completely. We were about to do CPR on her when she came to. I'm like, what the heck did I get into? I came to church. I gotta deal with this. So, and they want me to wear this nursing hat. But anyway, that was my little stint with that. But yes, families with children, obesity, that's amazing. That is something we absolutely need. And so we do, like, we need more people who are willing to teach people prevention and reach out, in a way that they're going to get continued follow-up, continued support and have it there with them. We're seeing a lot in our communities where people are building community gardens, which is awesome. So people have a lot of fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, and helping to care for it themselves within the community. I think that is a positive, and that may be, a great site to team up and introduce some of these, kind of healthy options and health awareness. And so I'm seeing some of that in my community. Not a ton though, but because kids are getting much more and more obese. We're seeing a lot of dental disease. We're seeing a lot of diabetes, a lot of adult health diseases. So that's it. What time is it? No, it's 10 minutes till 9. You guys ask great questions. Thank you so much. My Twitter fam especially showed out. Wendy, it's also nice to see you, and Kay from my Facebook page. I love it. Love seeing you guys, and thank you so much for joining me. Next week, hopefully, I'll have a guest on, and we will, probably be definitely more singularly focused on I am really working hard to try and get nurses on so we can talk about that and how we fix this nursing shortage, and what do we do now in the meantime, while we're to stop the bleeding and hemorrhaging, because we really need it. Right now, we did our shows already on the physician shortage, but the nursing shortage is equally as a problem, if not worse. So that's what I'd like to spend some time on. So we got a lot of topics to cover. Thank you so much for staying with me tonight and participating. Really, God bless you all. Have a wonderful weekend. And remember, healthcare is personal. It is not partisan. We are here to give you solutions that everybody can use. Peace out.